you gorgeous individuals, it's Kav here, and today I'm going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. So the mid-year book freakout tag is a tag that was created basically to have a mid-year check-in throughout your reading year where you look back on the first 6 months of your reading year and you kind of take a look ahead to the next 6 months of the year. So it's really just like, we're halfway there, so why not take a check-in as to what your reading year has looked like so far and what you hope it will continue to look like. I did this video last year on my channel, and that was actually one of my favorite videos I filmed last year, so I will link that in the description of this video for you to check that out. But since I had such a great time with it last year, I thought, why not do it again and see where we are halfway through 2018 reading-wise. So without further ado, let's get started. Question 1. What is the best book you've read so far? So this question was actually very hard for me to answer because at least half of the books I've read so far this year are contenders for my favorite books of 2018 list. So I've loved pretty much everything I've read so far, so it took a lot of racking my brain to finally come up with my answer, but I think I finally feel happy with the answer I have come up with, and that is Tyler Johnson Was Here by J. Coles. This book is the story of a black teen, Marvin Johnson, whose twin brother Tyler goes missing and is soon found dead as a victim of police brutality. Think of this book in the same realm you would think of books like The Hate You Give and Dear Martin. Tyler Johnson Was Here is a simple read in the literal sense, like it's very easy to read wording wise, and it's a pretty short book, and I actually really like that because I think that the literal easiness of it kind of balanced out the content-wise hardness of it, if that makes sense, because content-wise it packs a severe emotional punch. The book is actually inspired by real-life events of the author's own childhood, so it's just a reminder that even though this book is technically fiction, it's still the reality that many black teens are living with in America today, and that's something that we need to discuss, and books like this help us get those conversations started. Honestly, I think that this book is just so wonderful, and I really would like to see more people reading it because I feel like it's really underrated and that more people should be picking it up because it is such a good book. And if you can handle the topics of police brutality and that kind of violence, I do highly recommend you pick this one up. Question 2. Best sequel you've read so far? So I haven't actually read a single sequel in 2018 unless you count my reread of The Shadowhunter Chronicles, but I don't think I need to put that on this list because everyone knows they're my favorite books and it just feels unfair to other books that I could be promoting. So other than those, I haven't really read a sequel. I have read one companion novel, and that is Leon the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli, and I really enjoyed that, but I didn't really want that one to win by default, so I kind of changed this for me personally to instead be best second book you've read by an author. So with that change in mind, I'm going to be sharing another one of my top favorite reads of the year, and that is Girl Made of Stars by Ashley Herring Blake. Girl Made of Stars is Ashley Herring Blake's third novel, but it's the second of hers that I've read. It is the story of a main character, Mara, whose twin brother Owen was accused of raping one of her best friends, Hannah. So this book takes you along Hannah's journey as a rape survivor and how she's dealing with that, and the flack that comes from her honesty and being honest about what Owen did to her. But then Mara is also forced to look at her own past as a sexual assault survivor and figure out how to deal with that. And then there is also Mara's best friend and ex-girlfriend Charlie, who is dealing with her own journey as a genderqueer teen and kind of learning how to deal with that. So there are these 3 individual characters who are all undergoing their own journeys and their own extremely important journeys and important narratives. So it's about them individually, but it's also about them coming together as a community and the support they all provide for one another. And I just felt like there was something beautiful in the support these 3 friends had for one another throughout this story. I think that Girl Made of Stars is an extremely timely novel and an extremely important one. It deals with, again, a subject that is very real in today's world and needs to be talked about, and like with Tyler Johnson Was Here, novels like these can help start conversations about important subjects. I just think that everything in this novel was done so well, and again, if you can handle the subject it deals with, I do highly recommend you pick this one up because it's another one that I think is going unnoticed by a lot of people, but it really should be getting more promotion and more love because it genuinely deserves it. Question 3. New release you still need to read. So my answer for this one is Anger is a Gift by Oshiro. Anger is a Gift came out, I think, somewhere at the end of May and the beginning of June, and I had the absolute honor of actually meeting Oshiro and hearing him in conversation with Nina LaCour. Just that experience made me want to read this book so much more, and I really do want to get to it by the end of summer because it just sounds like another incredibly important novel. Anger is a Gift is also in the same category as novels like The Hate U Give, Dear Martin, Tyler Johnson Was Here. It follows the story of a gay black main character, Moss Jeffries, and it takes place in Oakland. And basically one of his classmates is injured by a metal detector when they are going through the security to go into school. So he and his friends stage a walkout, and it just sounds like an incredibly important novel. And hearing Mark himself talk about it and talk about his own experiences that led to him writing this novel, he kind of referred to it as a semi-autobiographical story. It just made me want to read it so much more because, again, these conversations are important and we need to be having them. And I think that the best way to repay authors that are brave enough to write these incredibly difficult stories is to read them and is to support them and promote them. So with all that said, this is one I really hope to get to by the end of summer because I just want to promote this novel as much as possible. Question 4. Most anticipated release for the second half of the year. So last year for this question I had 3 answers, so yet again I decided to go with 3 answers because I am always anticipating so many books that I can never just talk about one. So first of all, there is the book that everyone knows I'm going to bring up, and that is Queen of Air and Darkness by Cassandra Clare. This is the conclusion to the Dark Artifices trilogy, which is objectively Cassie's best work so far. It is diverse, it is well written, it has one of the most intriguing plots of all time. The characters are so interesting and so well created. Everything about it is just brilliant, and Lord of Shadows left us on the biggest cliffhanger. So I just cannot wait to see how this series concludes. The second book I'm going to talk about is What If It's Us by Adam Silvera and Becky Albertalli. Yet again, this one should not surprise anyone because both Adam and Becky are some of my favorite authors, so of course I was gonna read the book they wrote together. What If It's Us is basically a writing duo match made in heaven because it's these amazing 2 author best friends coming together to write what I can only expect is going to be an amazing romance. And What If It's Us follows 2 characters, Ben and Arthur, and it is a male-by-male romance between the 2 of them, and one of them is Jewish and the other one is Puerto Rican. I am just super excited to read this because I know Adam and Becky aren't going to disappoint me. And the third book I'm going to talk about is Blanca y Roja by Anna Marie McLemore. Blanca y Roja is a magical realism story that is basically a retelling of Snow White with these 2 sisters, Blanca and Roja. I love Anna Marie McLemore. I read Wild Duty and I adored that. It was beautiful. So I'm so excited for this, her 4th book, to be coming out soon. And Anna Marie just has this way of writing that is so beautiful and so captivating that you cannot help but just fall in love with it. So I'm just so excited to continue supporting her work with her next book. Question 5. Biggest disappointment. Now this one shouldn't come as a surprise to you all. My answer for it is Ship It by Britta London. I read an arc of Ship It and it was basically marketed as fandom and fan culture and a female by female romance, and all of those sounded like amazing things to me. Basically it follows the story of a main character named Clare who goes to this conference that her favorite show is on. She ships a male by male romance in this show, so she asks one of the actors if that will ever become canon, and he basically laughs her off and tells her she's stupid. So kind of to deal with the bad publicity that comes with that, they invite Clare to be on the rest of their tour, so she meets the actors and stuff, and along this she also ends up in a female by female romance. Now that premise sounded amazing to me. I was very excited to read it, but I ended up giving this book a 2 out of 5 stars, and I have an entire Goodreads review telling you why. Basically I just thought that there were a lot of toxic ideals promoted in this book. I really don't want people to just say it's good because it has diversity in it, because that doesn't make up for the toxicity of Claire's character and her romance with the love interest Tess. And I honestly don't really want to keep talking about it, so you can check out my review if you're interested, but I'm kind of over that whole thing. Question 6. Biggest surprise. My answer for this one is The Serpent's Secret by Sayantani Dasgupta. So I actually also got an arc of The Serpent's Secret, and this isn't a book that I had been anticipating for a long time or anything, but someone who was a friend of mine had heard that it dealt with Indian mythology and stuff, and they had an arc to send me, so they sent it over and I read it and I absolutely loved it. The Serpent's Secret is a middle grade novel about a main character, Kiranmala, who thinks she's a regular 6th grader, but then finds out she's kind of a long-lost Indian princess. I loved it so much, and it was such a wonderful read. I love the representation in it. I love the story of it as well. I think it's the perfect middle grade story, and I think it's the perfect middle grade story for Indian kids out there who are growing up and who are going to get to see themselves in this book. It was one that really surprised me and really wowed me. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, and I really loved it. Question 7. Favorite new author. So again, last year I had 3 answers for this one, so I'm going to do 3 answers again this year. So the first author I'm going to talk about is Dhonielle Clayton, who is my queen. So Dhonielle Clayton wasn't necessarily new to me because I knew of her from last year and I was following her from last year, but I only read her book this year, so I thought that I could use that as an excuse to put her on this list. Dhonielle is the author of The Bells, and she is also the co-author of the Tiny Pretty Things duology with Sona Chiraipotra, and she and Sona also have an organization called Cake Literary, which is basically helping marginalized authors get their diverse books out there. It's not exactly a literary agency, but it's kind of like one, and she is also one of the COOs of the We Need Diverse Books movement. So she is basically doing everything, and we should all praise her for it. First of all, she is one of the most eloquent speakers of all time, and she voices her thoughts so well, and her thoughts are always the good thoughts, and that was really well reflected in her writing. Her writing had that same eloquency to it. So both as an author and as a woman, I adore Dhonielle Clayton with all of my heart, and I really do recommend you support her. Even if you can't necessarily read her books, I do recommend you support the work she's doing in the community because she's doing so much and she really deserves more credit for everything she is doing. The next author I am going to talk about should not come as a surprise to anyone, and that, of course, is J. Cole's. As you heard at the beginning of this video, Tyler Johnson Was Here is one of my favorite books I've read this year, so it's only fitting that J. Cole's is one of my favorite new authors. Again, J. Cole's is doing such important work with his writing. With Tyler Johnson Was Here, you can see how he's writing this incredibly important narrative that we really need to see out there, and he is such an amazing author. He truly appreciates readers and reviewers, and that, I think, is something always to be credited in an author. That's just another one of the reasons I love him. And the third author on this list is Julian Winters. So I actually haven't even read Julian's book yet, Running with the Lions, but I do plan to get to it this summer as well because it is one that I really want to read. But I appreciate Julian so much because, like Jay, he is an author that so obviously appreciates book reviewers and book bloggers and bookstagrammers and everything. He takes the time to form connections with us, and he really goes above and beyond. He recently did an Instagram post featuring some of his favorite bookstagrammers, so how can you not love a man as pure as that? He is such a sweet man, and he just deserves all the support in the world for everything he is doing, and I just cannot wait to see him continue to succeed. Question number 8. Newest fictional crush. So my answer for this one is Charlie from Girl Made of Stars, and it's kind of weird because my answer last year was also a character named Charlie, but I love Charlie from Girl Made of Stars. I would die for her. She is such a well-created character. She is just the perfect love interest material, so it was very easy for me to go with her for this answer. Question number 9. Newest fictional character. And my answer for this one is Anna Lightwood from Cassandra Clare's books. Anna Lightwood is a main character of the Last Hours trilogy, which actually isn't out yet, but a short story about her that is part of the Ghosts of the Shadow Market series was released back in June, and that was Every Exquisite Thing, and I read it and I adore Anna's character. So I knew going into it that I already loved Anna for a bunch of reasons, but as I read that story, I just loved her more and more and now I can easily say she is one of my favorite fictional characters of all time. First of all, she is a gender fluid lesbian and she is so badass, and that is something I can really relate to because I'm also a gender fluid lesbian, so it means the world to me that my favorite author is representing these very underrepresented parts of me, but also just in her personality, she is someone I can really resonate with. So this is a spoiler for The Infernal Devices if you haven't read it yet, so don't listen to this if you haven't. Anna is the eldest child of Cecily Herondale and Gabriel Lightwood. So that means she is half Herondale, half Lightwood. Sometimes people ask, like, what Shadowhunter family would you be a part of? And I always struggle between the Lightwoods and the Herondales. And I feel like Anna represents exactly who I would be because she has the angst and such of a Lightwood, but she has the sarcasm and dry humor of Herondales, and that's something I can really resonate with. Also, her relation to fashion and how that plays into her gender identity and gender expression expression is, again, something very relatable to me, because although fashion has no gender, I use fashion as a way to express myself, and that also means sometimes in terms of gender expression. So Anna's journey straddling that was something I could really resonate with. So just for a variety of reasons, I really relate to her and I really adore her, and she is easily one of my newest favorite characters. Question 10. Book that made you cry. So as you can see, I love crying. My first 3 answers for this were all heart-wrenching books. So we're going back to the first answer, and I'm going to go with Tyler Johnson Was Here. I really don't think that it should be a surprise that that book made me cry, but it just made me sob, and it just broke my heart in so many ways, and it was just such a heart-wrenching read. But because I've already talked about it, I'm not gonna go in depth with it, so just know you're gonna bawl. Question 11. Book that made you happy. And for this one, I'm going to go with From Twinkle with Love by Sandhya Menon. From Twinkle with Love is Sandhya's second novel, and it is also a rom-com featuring 2 Indian American teenagers. It follows the story of a main character, Twinkle Mehra, who is an aspiring filmmaker, and it takes you along her journey, and along the way there's also an adorable nerdy romance, so that was just a wonderful plus. From Twinkle with Love is just the most adorable romance of all time. It's so swoon-worthy, and whereas there are serious parts to the novel, compared to what I usually read, it is very lighthearted, and that is good. I honestly think it surpassed When Dimple Met Rishi in how wonderful it was, but it's very hard for me to even say that because both are amazing. But I really do think From Twinkle with Love is a wonderful book, and I highly recommend it. Question 12. Favorite book to movie adaptation you've seen this year? And my answer for this one is Love, Simon, which is the movie adaptation of Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. Love, Simon was directed by Greg Berlanti and stars Nick Robinson, Keenan Lonsdale, Catherine Langford, Alexandra Shipp, and many other amazing actors. So Love, Simon is not only my favorite book-to-movie adaptation I've seen this year, but it is my favorite movie of all time now. I think that as a book-to-movie adaptation, Love, Simon was amazing. Like, it did a really good job of keeping integral parts of the book but also adding its own twists to it. So I think that everything it did just did it perfectly. And then also just as a movie, it is such a well done movie. You could see it alone, although I do recommend the book since the book is also amazing. Everything about it is just perfect, and I highly recommend it to anyone who hasn't seen it yet because it is the best. Question 13. Favorite video or review you filmed? So my favorite video I have filmed this year was the representation tag. That tag was so much fun to film, and I had such a great time filming it. I just felt like I got to discuss so many things that were so important to me, and I felt like I just expressed my thoughts about all the questions really well. So it's definitely one of my top videos I've ever filmed, and it's definitely my favorite one that I have filmed this year. Question 14. Most beautiful book. So this one was a no-brainer. It definitely goes to The Bells by Donielle Clayton. The internal content of The Bells is brilliant. Again, it's one of my favorite books I have read this year without a doubt, but the external beauty is also very great. First of all, the amount of pink on it. Listen, pink is my favorite color, so anything with pink on it automatically gets extra points from me. And then also the model on the cover is absolutely gorgeous. On the inside cover, there is this pink map of the fantasy world of The Bells. So all of that together just makes it one of the most brilliant books in the world. Like, I look at my bookshelf and there are some regular books, and then there's this shiny spine of The Bells that is gorgeous. I just adore this cover with all of my heart. Question 15. Book you still need to read. So there are a lot of books I still need to read, and we really don't need to take a look at how not well I am doing on my reading challenge this year. But there is one in particular I really do hope to get to by the end of the year, and that is The Six of Crows duology by Leigh Bardugo. So The Six of Crows duology is one I have been wanting to read for a really long time. Just everyone has been recommending it to me and telling me I'm going to love it. I can feel in my heart that I'm going to enjoy it. It's just, there are so many books I'm trying to get to all the time, but I really do hope to get to this one by the end of the year, and it's definitely going to be a priority on my TBR for the second 6 months of the year, and hopefully by this time next year I will have read it. So that concludes all of my answers for the mid-year book freakout tag. tag. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe because that stuff makes me happy. And go ahead and comment down below and maybe answer one of these questions, or just let me know something about how your reading year has been so far, because I would love to hear how you're doing with all of your reading goals. And as usual, all of my social media and my Goodreads will be in the description below if you'd like to follow me anywhere else. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you're having a lovely day or night wherever you are. Please remember that you are beautiful and you deserve the world, and I will see you soon for a brand new video. Goodbye!